He says, any words regarding the recent terror attack in Paris? Without any reservations, the crime that took place in France, in Paris, is a crime. It is a sin. It is prohibited. It is something that should be condemned. However, as Muslims, Islam is a religion of fairness and justice. So as we condemn this brutal attack and this crime, because of its nature and because of its negative consequences on the reputation of Islam and the livelihood of Muslims in these countries, we also at the same time must condemn similar attacks. So when you ask me to condemn such attacks, I do that without any reservations. But at the same time, there has to be a balance. What's the ruling on the killings of the children and women and innocent people in Palestine? In Gaza, for example. What is happening in Syria? What is happening in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Yemen? Drone attacks. Innocent people are being killed by whom? And for what reasons? So 12 people died. This is a crime. I agree. But at the same time, we should also look at the bigger picture about the other atrocities and crimes that are taking place by the enemies of Islam, and the Muslims are negative. They're not condemning this as well. But as soon as 12 people died in France, mashallah, everybody is condemning it. Is this fair and logical? Yes, it is a crime. And if I were to be asked whether to report these people before they committed the crime or not, I would definitely 100% say they must be reported. And if you know someone who is about to make a terrorist attack, you must report him. You must hinder him and stop him. Because this is tarnishing the reputation of Islam, and he does not represent Islam by no means. Now, more than that, if we would like to compare apple to apple, which is more severe and hideous in the religion of Islam? Killing a dozen of people, or insulting the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the messengers of Allah, Jesus Christ, Moses, all prophets of Allah Azza wa Jal, and insulting and depicting and ridiculing the religions of Allah Azza wa Jal? Definitely the latter is blaspheming. It is an act of kufr, and it's far greater than the slaying of a dozen people, which is a crime by itself that is not to be looked down upon. It is a serious crime. But which is more severe? Why didn't we hear from the Muslims worldwide condemnation? Why didn't we hear from presidents and heads of state condemnations to these countries and to these means of media that are doing this harmful and shameful attack against our religion, against the religion of Allah, against Allah Himself? This is an irony that has to be addressed. There's something wrong in our Islam when we are quick to condemn the killing of 12 people, give or take one or two, while we look the other way when it comes to insulting our messenger, our Prophet ﷺ. Does this justify the killing? The answer is no. It does not. Because this killing cannot be executed except by the head of a state. So if I'm in Saudi Arabia and someone does this, it's not for me to do it. It has to go through a panel of judges who would give their verdict, and then the ruler, the head of the state, can either executes it and carries on the punishment, or he pardons the individual or puts him in jail. This is up to the ruler, the Muslim ruler. Other than that, it's no go. It's not for you and me. Otherwise, we will be living in a jungle. But again, compare apple to apple. Now, they say that this is freedom of speech, and what they were doing was okay. Well, I beg to differ, because in these countries, there is no thing such as freedom of speech except if it was against Islam, against religions, against prophets, against Allah Azza wa Jal, against Jesus Christ. This is freedom of speech. Say whatever you want. If it's against colored people, if it's against previous colonies, no problem. If it's against the Palestinians, the Syrians, the Iraqis, the Afghanis, step on them. They're trash. But when it comes to the Jews, they'll put you in jail. Anti-Semitism. You're not allowed to talk about Jews. Where's my freedom of speech? Your freedom of speech ends here. If it's against gays and homosexuals, no, you have no right, none whatsoever, to speak about this. If it's about this and that, your freedom of speech ends. But if it's opposition groups talking against our leadership, talking against our religion in our countries, and we jail them after being tried and convicted, and we decide to flog them or to jail them or to do whatever punishment that is dictated by law, the law of the country, you hear president of countries condemning this brutal attack on freedom of speech. What irony? What contradiction? No. What enmity to Islam, I would say. So, to put it in a nutshell, Uzair, I condemn this brutal attack and this crime that took place in Paris. These people do not represent Islam. I'm not even proud to be affiliated with them. And I do have my doubts whether they have been paid off by other sources so that they would tarnish the reputation of Islam. Because in Islam we do not advocate, we do not encourage such coward attacks. Yet we do condemn these cartoons and we do condemn these attacks because look what happened. Elsewhere, 7, 8 countries, tens of different publications, they reproduced and republished these depicting cartoons. So did this attack, this crime, serve Islam or was it against Islam? And I would not go into the causes and the reasons of the existence of such fanaticism and terrorism in such countries, because this is not the right program to discuss these things.